Welcome, everyone, to This Explainer. Okay, today we are tackling the exact question literally every single American homeowner asks right before a renovation kicks off. Why on earth is this taking so long before the construction even begins? Seriously, if you've ever felt completely pulled out of your mind by the opaque, bureaucratic maze of just getting a project off the ground, believe me, you are so not alone. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and break down exactly what is happening behind the scenes of your renovation timeline, and we've got some incredibly revealing data to show you. So let's just dive right into this with a statistic that honestly blew my mind. According to 2026 data from the National Association of Home Builders, permitting and plan review delays cause up to 25% of timeline overruns on major kitchen and bath projects. Just let that sink in for a second. A full quarter of your renovation schedule can get completely eaten up before a single hammer is ever swung. And look, the financial pain point here is just as staggering. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, regulatory hurdles, like permitting, add an average of more than $90,000 to the final cost of a new single-family home. 90 grand. And yes, those kinds of costs absolutely trickle down to your remodeling projects too. So, understanding this whole process isn't just about, preserving your sanity, it is absolutely crucial for protecting your wallet.
Here is our quick roadmap for This Explainer. First, we'll look at the bottleneck. Then we'll compare plan check versus permit, outline the timeline reality, discuss vetting your pro, and finally, reframing the process. All right, let's get right into it. Section 1, the bottleneck. Let's start with the core problem of the pre-construction phase and talk about why trying to just bypass it is a terrible, terrible idea. The absolute most important takeaway here is that patience is actually a financial strategy. Rushing this process or deciding to start demolition before you have a permit officially in hand is quite literally the most expensive mistake a homeowner can make. If you jump the gun, you can get an immediate stop work order from a city inspector, which freezes every single piece of activity on your site. And to lift that freeze, you could face fines that are double the original permit fee. Oh, and it gets worse. If you've, say, removed a structural wall without getting approval first, you might be forced into some wildly expensive retroactive engineering, or, brace yourself, you might even have to tear out the completed work. Just don't do it.
Section 2, plan check versus permit. Let's clear up the single biggest misconception out there about what you are actually waiting for.
You see, a lot of folks think getting a permit is kind of like getting a driver's license, right? You fill out a form, you pay your fee, they hand you a piece of paper. But in reality, the plan check is the actual game. This is the grueling, hyper-detailed review phase where the city scrutinizes your architectural drawings to make sure they meet all the building codes. Basically, all of your time, money, and frustration, it happens right here. The building permit itself, that's really just the trophy. It's the official piece of paper they hand you at the very end that legally lets you start building. The plan check is the brutal final exam, the permit is just the diploma. So getting a permit is definitely not a simple DMV transaction. Honestly, a much better analogy is a flight check for an airplane. The plan examiner isn't just a paper pusher. They are a highly specialized expert, inspecting everything to ensure your project is safe, structurally sound, and compliant. They're meticulously looking at the specific R value of your insulation, checking the seismic clips on your framing, and even verifying the ventilation capacity of your new range hood. All of this is to protect you, your family, and whoever buys the house after you.
Section 3, the timeline reality. Let's look at the actual numbers and the specific factors that are causing major national delays right now in 2026. So why are we seeing these incredibly long waits? Well, it essentially boils down to a perfect storm of staffing shortages and regulatory complexity. Right now, municipal building departments are significantly understaffed. Bureau of Labor Statistics data actually shows wages for construction and building inspectors rising steadily, which tells us we've got a very tight labor market for these super specialized roles. On top of that, even though the post-2024 interest rates cooled down new construction, the demand for renovations is still incredibly high because people are choosing to upgrade their current homes instead of moving. Add in the highly complex new energy codes tied to the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA tax credits, and building departments are just completely overwhelmed.
Let's break down what a typical plan check timeline actually looks like based on these 2026 patterns. Let's say you're doing a major kitchen or bath remodel, moving some walls, rerouting plumbing, that kind of thing. Just getting your initial submittal reviewed so you get your first set of comments back, that takes 4 to 6 weeks. Then every single round of revisions takes another 3 to 4 weeks. And here's the kicker. Most projects average 1 to 3 revision rounds. When you do the math, this process can easily stretch out to 3 or 4 months before a single shovel hits the dirt. Which brings us right into Section 4, vetting your pro.
because navigating this maze is absolutely not a DIY sport. You really need an experienced quarterback who knows your local codes inside and out to prevent those endless delays. Let's go over the 3 critical questions you absolutely must ask when you're interviewing a pro. Question number 1. Who on your team is actually responsible for creating the construction documents and managing the city submittal? You have to ask this to ensure you're talking to the actual technical draftsperson who's going to be doing the heavy lifting, not just some charismatic salesperson making promises. If they give you a vague answer here, consider that a massive red flag. What you're listening for is a reassuring, solid answer like, "Oh, our in-house draftsperson prepares all of our drawing sets. They've got years of experience with the city's online portal, and they handle all the direct communication with the plan examiner." That is the golden answer. You want a dedicated expert whose job is interfacing directly with the city. Okay, question 2. Based on our project's specific scope, what is your estimated timeline for getting an approved permit? Now, this question is basically a trap for an overly enthusiastic contractor. It tests 2 things: their honesty and their deep knowledge of your specific local jurisdiction. The crucial thing to remember here is that an overly optimistic timeline is dangerous. A true professional isn't just going to wave their hand and say, it'll just be a few weeks. No way. They will give you a realistic timeline that accounts for specific technical hurdles. They might say something like, well, because we're moving a gas line, we are going to need a separate mechanical drawing, so we really should budget a full 3 to 4 months for soft costs. Honesty upfront like that will save you thousands of dollars in holding costs down the line. In question 3, please never skip this one. Can you show me a set of drawings you've submitted for a similar project? This is the ultimate proof of a design professional's technical competence. Honestly, anyone can mock up a pretty 3D rendering, but city building departments, they do not care about pretty. They care about code.
When they show you their past work, you are looking for a dense, highly detailed PDF. It should be packed with extremely clear electrical plans, ventilation notes, and explicit structural calculations for things like added beams. It needs to look like a highly technical blueprint that is fully ready for rigorous city scrutiny, not just a nice picture of a kitchen.
All right, let's move into our final segment, Section 5, Reframing the Process. Let's clear up a few common gray areas and talk about the mindset shift you really need for a successful renovation. First, let's distinguish when you might actually get lucky. Over-the-counter or OTC permits are issued the exact same day for simple, straightforward work. We're talking about replacing a water heater in its existing location or swapping out windows for ones that are the exact same size. For stuff like that, you can often literally walk into the building department and walk right out with a permit. But anything that requires structural or architectural drawings, that's going straight into the formal plan check process we've been discussing. Let's look at the exact threshold of when a tiny project crosses the line into needing a formal permit. Take a common kitchen island, for example. If your new island is just cabinetry and a countertop, essentially acting like a heavy piece of furniture, you typically don't need a permit. However, the very second you add plumbing for a prep sink, or run electrical wiring for an outlet, or pipe in a gas line for a cooktop, boom, a permit is absolutely required, and that's to prevent serious fire hazards and dangerous leaks.
Now, if there is one single thing I want you to remember when the mail finally arrives, it is this. Receiving a corrections letter from the plan examiner is completely 100% normal. It is not a rejection of your project. Try not to panic. It's simply a standard, numbered list of very specific points that your architect needs to fix or clarify to meet code. You should expect at least one round of these for any moderately complex project. It's just part of the workflow.
So, summarizing the overall takeaway from our sources today, building extra time and money into your schedule is a critical strategy. The National Association of Home Builders recommends a 10 to 15% contingency for renovations, especially on homes over 30 years old. Just mentally allocate that time for city delays. The era of super simple, minimalist design is kind of over. People want complex work triangles, massive windows, and heavy quartz-eye countertops now. All of that requires detailed engineering. So hire a professional who fluently speaks the language of the code to guide you through it all. Which leaves us with this final vital question to completely reframe your mindset. Are you treating your city inspector as a bureaucratic roadblock or as your ultimate quality control partner? Remember, they are the independent expert whose literal sole job is to make sure your home doesn't catch fire or collapse. If you embrace the process and plan realistically for the timeline, you'll be setting the foundation for a much smoother, completely legal, and highly successful build. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, happy renovating!